friends, and thank you for clicking on this video. Today's video is going to be a little bit of a weird one. I'm going to be discussing protests in Moscow and Hong Kong in a nutshell, also doing my makeup, hence get ready with me. A little bit why I'm doing this. I believe that YouTube should be a platform for enlightening and educating each other and sharing our experiences, as opposed to flaunting our wealth and flaunting our Chanel, Louis Vuitton purse vault. So let's just start. So yeah, I'm gonna start with discussing the origin of the Moscow protest. When I tell stories, I like to go way back. It can be super annoying, but what I want to say is that I was born in 1994, and while I was alive, I only witnessed 3 presidents. I don't know. It's food for thought. Is that okay? I wonder how many people are the same age as me, what countries are other people from, and how many presidents have you witnessed during your lifetime. So protests have been going on for years, and generally protests are okay, but the ones that are going on are happening for a very specific reason. I have to say that I haven't been on any single protest until recently. It was my first time ever. So I want to say that unfortunately our political system consists of one party. There is no opposition. There is just one main party, one ruling party, which is called Единая Россия, United Russia. And unfortunately, all the rest of the parties are just for the illusion of democracy, illusion of choice, illusion of pluralism. So there's still quite a lot of time left until the presidential election. Our president has actually changed the presidential election system. He transformed the 4-year presidential term into a 6-year presidential term, in case you haven't got a taste in the first 17 years, you just get a bit more democracy at its finest. But the elections that are upcoming are the elections to the Moscow city parliament. So I am born in the city. I'm a Moscovitan sounds lame. So, but nevertheless, me and other people will theoretically have a choice on those elections, but will we really though? And that's where the problem starts. Basically, there is an opposition leader who has been heavily persecuted by the authorities. He has been jailed, he has been arrested, he has been detained multiple times throughout the years. By the way, the beauty company Share is so problematic. Look it up, guys. I have talked about that, but that's not important right now. What the oppositional leader has his own YouTube channel, and what he said on the channel that actually a handful of oppositional independent candidates are running for city parliament on the upcoming elections. So Moscow actually has a ton of districts, and basically each district will have a vote for their representatives and whatnot. And those opposition candidates will represent the relevant districts. I mean, good news and all. My district personally is not covered by those candidates, so my district did not have a candidate to vote for, but the opposition did come with a smart vote system where you can coordinate the votes based on the district for the maximum effect. All seem good and cheerful and optimistic. Perhaps for once in our lives we can make a vote and all that matters. But then what happened is that the head of the electoral committee for the city parliament denied those candidates access to the parliament election. They said that people who gave the signatures for the candidates did not exist, that they're dead, and therefore their votes, their signatures don't count, and therefore the candidates should not even be given the opportunity to run for the office, and they are denied access basically. And that's where the public fatigue comes in, because I'm sick of this, Gilead. I'm sick of this. You have stolen everything from us. You have decriminalized domestic violence in this country. You have stolen our votes for any other elections, but this is a city parliament elections. This is our city. We want to vote. We exist. What authorities also conveniently did after denying the candidates access is that they detained them. They arrested them for urging people to protest and march. But I guess what we did, we went ahead and marched and protested either way. Only one of the protests so far has been authorized by the mayor's office, and these are the rules. The mayor's office did not authorize any other protests, so that gave the police an opportunity to be violent and gave them the permission to be that way. And for the first time in my life, I decided to go on a protest. Again, a bit of a disclaimer. I don't even always watch the news for the sake of my mental health. I sometimes, most of the time, prefer to be apolitical, but being apolitical is a luxury that I can no longer afford, because it is concerning everyone. It is concerning my future. It is about my life, my freedom. I cannot stay out of it anymore, and unfortunately, no one at this point of time, no one should stay out of it. The protest was scheduled to be on this big street, one of the central streets that I might say. The pedestrian part of it is quite broad, a bit like this whole room. While we were approaching, I saw a lot of police bus. After that, they are meant for detaining people. There were also just some regular buses, but the window of those regular buses were blocked with some black kind of material, and those buses were also filled with police and with inner special forces. So at some point we were just stuck. Nothing was really happening. There were a lot of cameras, a lot of reporters were reporting to the camera. Nobody was chanting anything. And actually, unlike Hong Kong, the protesters don't have any common elements of clothing. Nobody even had the papers, really, especially at the beginning, because, well, I will explain why. But basically, since the protest is not authorized, you are breaking the law by even existing on that street in that appointed time. We were just standing, minding our own business, because nothing was really going on then. But then what happened is that a huge chain of policemen, special forces people, like chained together, they circled us, and then they started just pushing all together, people trying to push us out of the street in the alleyway. And I have to say, there were not like many scary moments during the protest. It was way scary than I thought it was gonna be, but that exact moment was very scary. It actually reminded me of some historical event when the last emperor, the last Tsar, the last king of Russia, Nikolai II, when there was his crowning day, there was some celebration gone wrong. A lot of people were pushed to death and stomped to death in the crowd, and my mind just went there because they were just pushing, and like I said, it was scary at that moment of time. No one had any papers, any protest signs. We weren't yet pushed into the alleyway completely, and then one man just took a little flimsy piece of paper where the opposition slogan was written on, literally by hand. The paper was like little. If it could be any more flimsier, that piece of paper would have been toilet paper. The word "Допускай" was written on the piece of paper. It means like allow, as in allow our oppositional independent candidates to the election. And the man held the little piece of paper for like 1.5 second, less than 2 seconds, what it felt like. And then immediately he was snatched by the police. They pushed again at all of us with the whole police chain. Some women screamed, I screamed. It was very scary. And then they just took that man away completely and detained him. They can detain you for having a piece of paper, but they can detain you for way less. Since there is no exterior trait that unites everyone who came to protest, they can just detain anyone because you might as well be a protester. And then was the time when we were finally pushed into the alleyway, and what the police did, they quickly took some kind of metal little fences and put them out. They completely blocked our way out of the alleyway into the street. They separated the crowd into two little crowds and put themselves and little fences in between us. And just a moment, I will finish the line and lashes and come back. So I'm back. My eyeliner sucks, but that's the least of my problems. Basically, what has been going on is that police has beaten up the civilians. One woman has her skull seriously injured. Her whole head was bleeding. They have beaten up regular random people, beating up with their sticks just so violently. They have beaten up our bicyclists. I don't get it. So I wouldn't be myself if I had not forgotten important details of what I wanted to say in the first place. First of all, why did I even consider two protests similar? So let me bring you the words of Yang Wang, a spokesman of the Chinese government, who said that behind the protests are violent criminals and the meddling hands who are against China. He also said truly iconic epic words, those who play with fire will perish by it. And similarly, our government views us as some violent criminals who are also a part of meddling hands from the West, who are anti-Russian, which again is not true. A couple more iconic things that happened during the protests. Like I mentioned before, the tactic by the forces against the protests was to separate the crowd and also to corner people, to ambush people, if that makes sense. At some point, a huge chunk of protesters were cornered in one of the alleyways. They had no way out. Police and those forces were pushing against them, arresting people and whatnot. And An iconic thing that happened is that all happened next to a church. People were trying to get to the church, they were trying to jump the fence, and when the priest and people who serve at the church saw that, they actually brought a wooden ladder to help people cross the fence, and basically the priest covered all the protesters at the church so they could be safe. So touching. He offered people to pray, and he says that a lot of them agreed, and then he was able to let people out during the back door. An ironic thing that the priest wasn't actually Russian, he's Italian, but that moment truly touches my soul, even though I'm not religious by choice. Another thing is that a hugely, massively iconic moment was that there's a 17-year-old girl who was reading Constitution to the OMON officers. Because according to the Constitution, we have freedom of assembly, but that girl was arrested. Even the Constitution was confiscated from her by the police, but the photos of her doing so, reading it, became really inspirational and iconic. The protests have been going on. There's still a month left until the city parliament election. The protests will continue. Only one again was authorized by the mayor's office, so it has been quite violent. Luckily, the police here did not have any authorization to use guns or rubber bullets or tear gas as what happened in Hong Kong, but still what they did was extremely violent and uncalled for. The protests here have been extremely peaceful. They were just detaining us for existing outside, detaining people left and right. A lot of cases were already viewed in the court. A lot of fines were appointed by the court. Those sums of money are pretty huge. They're bigger than minimum wage. And what really horrifies me is that the first criminal cases were opened. People were charged with criminal offenses just for protesting. They were charged with apparently using violence against the police, which could not be which did not happen. We do not have guns. People don't have guns here, unlike the US. People don't carry around guns. People don't carry around other things like knives. People with knives would have been and were detained long before they would reach the protesting place. People were charged with assaulting a police officer, even if the person was just like touching a police officer or special force person by the shoulder. The candidates were released and arrested again and again. They were never given the access to the elections. So from what we know so far, unfortunately they will not be participating, and that was the decision of the electoral committee. The one only Putin friendly people will be participating in the city elections, and that is why we protest. You have taken everything from us. We have our freedom to assembly according to our constitution, yet you arrest us for protesting and put us behind bars from protesting and charge us with criminal offenses for protesting, break our heads, our legs for protesting. And let me just repeat that the protests were extremely peaceful. People didn't even have any special animosity towards the forces. everybody did their best to understand that there are also people that's like their jobs or their duties, they do not wish harm, but unfortunately horrible things still happened. I don't know what will happen next. I will continue to do the best of what I can. I believe in exercising our suffrage. I believe in freedom of assembly again. Of course, it is all scary. Talking and uploading a video about that should be scary when I was on my way to protest, and the night before I was extremely scared as well. But fear is a human emotion, it is normal. I will not let them intimidate me and steal everything that I have, or that's assuming I ever had any freedom of assembly and freedom of speech and whatnot. I mean, people are ready to fight for it, that's why they go on the streets. And the fight will continue. Join the resistance.